Gina. Welcome back to my haunted library. Whoa. Got my unsharp prop sword here to do a fun tag that is the Sword and Sorcery tag. So I'm just going to get rid of this for a second. So I saw this on Grumpy Andrew's Horror House, and he's one of my favorite YouTube channels. And the originator of the tag, and I'm going to also put him below, is Geek Legend of Doom. I love that name. That's really fun. Okay, so this is a Sword and Sorcery movie tag, but I'm also going to apply it to books and comics because that is kind of how I got to know this fantasy subgenre. But I am not in any way like a geek about it. Like I have a very surface knowledge of it. So, but just saying that ahead of time. You're not going to find any like really new stuff here, but you know, it's kind of maybe a little entertaining. So I am going to tag Steve Donoghue. And that's because I know that he knows a lot about sword and sorcery books, and he also writes in that genre. And he's doing like a serial on Weird Mask, which I also have a story coming out in the next issue. So I'm going to start reading his stories. I just ordered a bunch of Weird Masks. I will also link that below because that's a really cool zine. Got to get rid of this sword. I can do a lot of damage with this thing. I am like the farthest thing from like He-Man. Coming right at you. It would be kind of fun to learn how to do a little sword work. Anyway, so what is sword and sorcery? It's a little hard to say that. Basically, and I'm no expert, but just from what I've gleaned, it's a subgenre of fantasy with like an emphasis on action. And it's usually like in a medieval or like, I guess in the case of Conan, like a prehistoric kind of setting. And there's magic, there's sorcery, there's some kind of like mage character. And he or she is helping the protagonist on some like revenge mission or some mission to rescue a princess or something. So there are a lot of fight scenes. It's more action. Now I am not a gamer. I don't play video games. I don't know anything about video games, but I know that this genre is kind of been kept alive in the gamer industry. I mostly know it from like the 70s and the 80s, and there were a lot of 80s horror films. So I would guess like my first introduction to this type of story would be like back in the 70s with one of I was like a big fan of Eerie, and still am, and Creepy magazine, or comics rather, and heavy metal also. I kind of grew up on Creepy and Eerie and then graduated to heavy metal. So like here's an example of one, and it has very cool artwork. I'll try to do a close-up. This is a take on Merlin, and in this, it's about like young Arthur and Merlin getting into some adventures. And the Merlin in this story is very, it's kind of like a sexy Merlin. Not like with the long beard or like a wizard, but more of like a hot warrior. And then we've got like the scantily clad girls, which is kind of part of the genre, and the cool artwork. It's very much in this like Frank Frazetta type of artwork, which, I mean, I just remember, I loved Frank Frazetta back in the day, you know, and I still do. I think his artwork's amazing, and I remember like the Molly Hatchet album cover and all that stuff. That's what I consider kind of sword and sorcery, like that kind of feel. Okay, so here we go. Favorite sword and sorcery movie. That would definitely be Excalibur. That came out, I don't know, 82, I think. John Boorman directed it. I love that movie. I think it's probably the best that I've ever seen depiction of King Arthur's tales ever. And it's just a really amazing film on every level. Worst sword and sorcery movie you've seen. That would probably have to be the, even though I love it, I mean, it's bad. It's bad, so bad it's good, but it's still bad, is Heavy Metal, the animated film that came out in like 1981. I really love heavy metal comics, so when that movie came out, I was so excited about seeing it. But it has some interesting parts in it and some like good music, but overall, it's not that good. If you could pick 4 Sword and Sorcery movie characters to go on a quest with you, who do you pick? I'm going to challenge myself and try to do like an all-girl group here. So let's see how I do. I think for my mage character, I would do Galadriel from The Lord of the Rings, because she's always good in a crisis. She'll show up and help. For my muscle, probably Zula, the Grace Jones character from Conan the Destroyer. She is just so amazing in that movie. Like I just watched it recently. It's weird because this tag came out, and I've been on kind of this Sword and Sorcery like 80s movie kick for the last few weeks. So that's one reason I wanted to do this. Yeah, Zula's great. Also, Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones. I think she would be very handy to have on deck. And also Arya from Game of Thrones, and she can whip that needle around really good. So that would be my all-girl team. Okay, if you could pick any weapon from a Sword and Sorcery movie, what do you pick? Definitely the glaive from Krull. Grumpy Andrew picked the same one. It's that cool, like, kind of star-shaped thing. Yeah, definitely the glaive. And I just watched Krull, and that's another movie that's like bad but good. I don't know. I told my sister I was watching it. I'm like, oh, I'm watching Krull. It's so good. And she watched it, and she's like, you're crazy. That was terrible. I was like, sorry. Okay, what else? What Sword and Sorcery IP needs a reboot or remake? Maybe Krull. You know, that's such a great like example of that 80s cheesy style though. So I don't know if you could really. It might just ruin it because it sounds like the story is that deep. But I don't know. I would love to see like heavy metal come back with like a kick-ass animated cartoon or something. I don't know. I don't really have a great answer for that one. What is your favorite Sword and Sorcery TV show? Well, definitely Game of Thrones, but I also loved Xena, Warrior Princess back in the day. So it's kind of a toss-up between those two. But Game of Thrones, of course, you know, it's amazing, and I can't wait for it to come back on. With a few exceptions, Sword and Sorcery is traditionally one of the most un-PC genres. Where do you see the genre going, and what would you like to see more? Well, I definitely think that more representation as far as like different types of characters would be great. Like, you know, reading and watching Lord of the Rings. I mean, it's really mostly male characters. There are a few female characters, but they're more like very much in the background, kind of more like symbolic in a way. And then in Game of Thrones, you get these amazing female characters, which I enjoy. So I'd like to see that more inclusivity. But then I wouldn't want it to lose its edge either. I think that the brutality in a Sword and Sorcery has got to be there, or else it doesn't really fit the genre. So you're going to offend somebody on some level. And, you know, I don't mind the virgin tied to the pillar when the palace is falling, you know, to pieces. I mean, to me, it's just part of the archetype. It's part of the genre. So don't ruin it with too many PC kind of things. That I've seen that happen too many times. Okay, so do you have any special editions or releases? No merchandise. I don't geek out on it at all like that. What Hollywood actor? Although that could change, you never know. I've been on this fantasy kick. I could really go into it now. It's possible. What Hollywood actor would you cast as He-Man or She-Ra in a live-action movie? Well, for He-Man, I mean, he's probably already... I know he's, like, plays Thor, but there's that really hot blonde guy, Chris Hemsworth, I think it is. He would do, but I think an actor that I would love to see in this kind of film is Michael Fassbender. Fassbender, did I say it right? Fassbender. He's lean. He would really have to bulk up, but I think he's just like, there's a wildness about him and a fierce, unhinged quality not saying he is like that, but he can act that, or maybe he is like that. I don't know. But I think that he could do it like, you know, really do something brutal and make it real. And what is your favorite screen dragon, TV, or movie? Definitely Game of Thrones. Drogon, I think, is the main one, because all of the dragons in Game of Thrones, they have, at least in the film or the TV show, they really have personalities. And like, I cried when the dragon is shot by the ice spear, but that wasn't Drogon. I forget the name of. I'll put it there. It's one of the other ones. I mean, I was devastated when that happened. So yeah, I love those dragons from Game of Thrones, and we kind of watched them grow up. So we did watch them grow up on the show. So yeah, so this is very surface. I don't have a great knowledge of this subgenre at all, but I do find it really interesting and fun. So please let me know in the comments below what you think of this particular subgenre, if you're into it. And if you want to do this, consider yourself tagged. So thanks for stopping by my haunted library, and I'll see you soon.